Hey, it's been a little bit, and you've probably been wondering where I've been. You probably don't know this, but Who Hacks has a very special place in my heart. During Who Hacks 2023, so almost exactly a year ago, my team and I, we went in and competed in our first ever hackathon. We went in and we ended up winning the entire competition, best overall, for our automatic gunshot detection system. This year, things were looking a little bit different. Not only would there be about 100 more attendees than the years past, but the competition was also very clearly beefed up. More teams, more experienced teams, more people that have gone to more than just one hackathon, more prizes, better prizes. The entire thing was just more. And if you're interested in learning why that is, I have a little bit of a video where I kind of go a bit more in depth for that, but that's not what we're talking about today. But the point is that this time things were going to be a lot harder. But we haven't spent the last year doing nothing. If you've been seeing a few of my hackathon videos, then you know over the past year I've been going to hackathons regularly, and this past couple months I've been going to at least one every single month, all preparing for this. Needless to say, we felt ready to go in and reclaim our title as the overall champions at Who Hacks 2024. Now, if you're completely new here, the general gist of the idea of what we're doing is that me and 3 of my other friends are going to go compete in what's called a hackathon. And essentially what that means is that for somewhere between a 24 and 36 hour period, this time it's going to be 24 hours, we're going to go and compete, try and make the best software, product, program, system out of, in this case, a couple hundred teams. Now, at the end of this 24-hour period, we're going to present what we've made to a panel of judges who will conduct an interview and we'll do a pitch. And from there, they'll give us a score ranking us according to how the other teams did. And we'll see if we were able to get away with another win. So now you're probably wondering what our idea is. Meet Alexandria, where AI and studying meet. Essentially, the idea is that a student or a user can upload a PDF of their notes or a PowerPoint or something that was handwritten, and you can send it into our website. It'll send that to a model that we've created that'll then analyze everything and be able to create helpful tools for the student for studying and homework and things like that. Some example of tools that we were considering making for this were a chat functionality where you could ask a question. It would make an answer based off of what it can find inside of your notes. Another example was automatic note cards, where at the press of a button, it would create both the question and the answer of a flashcard that you could then use to study based directly off of your notes. So how this is going to work is essentially now, that's all great and everything, but now we have to go and build it. The morning of the competition started pretty early. We had to leave around 6 or 7 a.m. So along the way, we made a stop to get some food, and then we worked on figuring out exactly how we would be organizing ourselves based off of the skills that we all had. What we ended up getting from that was that I would be working on the functionality side of things, so getting the Python script set up that would work with LangChain, with OpenAI, that would make the note cards, that would return responses from user inputted questions, doing that. This guy, his job was to work the back end, so managing all the files and connecting everything between my code and the front end, as well as managing any databases that we would decide we would need. Then this guy's job was to work on the research and preparing us the entire time for the interview process, which is something that we found is often overlooked inside of these competitions, where people focus entirely on making their solution, and then by the time they get to the end, they aren't prepared to present it. And then finally, this guy's job was to connect the back end and the the functionality and put it all on the front end. I think we ended up using a mixture of Fast API, HTML with Bootstrap to put together the front end and all of the front end functions. So after setting up all of our stuff and getting our spot together, we finally got to work. And we first started off with planning out the architecture and how we were going to organize everything between the four of us. Surprisingly, the programming side of things was pretty simple. After only 4 or 5 hours of actual coding and maybe 6 or 7 YouTube tutorials, I had succeeded in taking a PDF input and then outputting a OpenAI response to a user question. Next came the AI flashcards. This part I was really worried about the entire time because I was very anxious about the fact that I would have to worry about making sure that I ask the right question initially to ChatGPT to get the questions that I needed for those flashcards, then formatting those questions so that I could send it back to ChatGPT to get the answers, then formatting those answers and matching them to each question, and then putting that in a nice way that I could then send to the front end for them to actually use. And along with that, making sure that each question actually had an answer, making sure that each answer had a question, and making sure everything was just organized correctly. It's done. I did it. It wasn't that hard. At this point, it seemed like things were moving pretty quickly. It was only like 4 or 5 p.m. and I had already finished the flashcards and the chat functionality. The back end was looking relatively close to being finished. The research was definitely getting a good step ahead of what probably anybody else was at that point, but things were moving really well, and we really felt like we were locked in and nothing could possibly go wrong.
Hold up, I'm like freaking out now because I don't know who...
Are you looking at their IP?
So they have a web server on it. Dude, I'm so worried. Like, I just want to make sure I didn't just put my passwords into a honeypot. The thing is, I never set a password. So I fucking fell for that shit.
Damn.
But what I don't get is how I literally fell for the one server that exists.
Yeah.
Yo, the AWS is getting attacked. They asked for boaform/admin/form login.
Let them in, bro. Let them in. Now, after that problem got sorted, things went back to running smoothly. Almost. So my next part of getting functionality was working on OCR. So essentially this stands for optical character recognition, or basically when machine learning analyzes a picture of handwritten or printed text and gets an actual string of characters from that. So when I was going into this, I assumed that this would be a pretty easy part of the functionality. I thought that there's probably free libraries out there that I can use that will help make this, because I know it's not necessarily that difficult to train a model to do this, because I know how to do this training my own model. It's just it wouldn't be that great because I don't have this crazy large data set of handwritten notes. When I started actually looking for them, I found that there weren't any of those, and that if there were libraries, they were hidden behind a paywall or they didn't exactly work that well. Eventually I found a library that I could use that was free, but it only worked for printed notes. So think like taking a picture of the pages of a book and then submitting that, which is great. However, the issue is adding the functionality for that both in the back, front, and in my code. It would have been way too much work for what we were getting out of it. Especially considering that at the end of the day, we were using the free tier of AWS, which already everything was running really slow. So if we added on to that, doing all the calculations and number crunching to figure out what was going on in a printed text, it would just make everything run a whole lot slower, especially when we knew we'd only have 4 minutes to present everything to each one of the judges. After taking a short break to go get food, we all came back and continued working. And essentially at this point, on my end, I had finished basically all the code there was for me to do. The back end had finished basically all the code that there was for him to do, and the research was getting pretty close to being done. It seems like everything's going great at this point. But here's the thing. My team has a bit of a habit of only having one person develop the front end of our application. For the past 2 hackathons, that person has been me, since I'm the only one that knows how to do Android mobile development. This time, it was all our front-end guy who is working entirely on creating the actual web app portion of the project, which, if you haven't figured out by now, is essentially the entire project. So, needless to say, he was going through it.
The chat thing, the chat function, can you implement, that, because currently I have topic hard-coded, right? Can you make that not hard-coded? That's not a good idea. My VPN's not connecting. I can't do anything. I don't know. Power's out. That's even worse.
Around 2 a.m. we all got tired and decided to go to sleep and called it a night. And then the next day I decided to wake up early because I forgot that I can't do any work without the front end being done. So I woke up and then almost instantly decided to go back to sleep. After everybody got up at around 8 or 9 a.m., we all officially got back to work. And this was probably the one hackathon that I've gotten the most sleep at. Usually I have to compromise for like a 2 or 3 hour nap, but in this case I was able to get a full 6 hours sleep, which was phenomenal. So after everybody woke up and we got some breakfast, we got straight back to work. And while our front end guy worked on getting everything good on that end, and I worked to help him out in understanding what the code was that I sent him and how he can use it with the front end to get actual responses, while we did that, the other two worked on finishing up the write-up and the video submission and everything that was needed for that. Then eventually at around 10 or 11 a.m. or 2 to 1 hours before the submission deadline, we finally had full functionality of the front end. So how this would look is there would be essentially like a little chat box, and you could ask questions of the AI model specifically about your notes. We had an upload page where you could submit and upload your PDFs of your note pages, and along with that we also had the flashcards. By default you'll see the question, then if you hover your mouse over the question it'll change to the answer. Everything was working great. We were getting accurate responses based off of the notes that we provided. We were getting accurate flashcards, questions and answers based off of the notes that we provided, and the upload was working very well. We were also able to organize everything into specific categories based off of the topics that we were submitting. So we had history, science, math, and networking, because I had all of my networking notes for my networking class. Now, with the project fully operational and the submission completely finished, the only thing that was left for us to do was to hit the submit button and get ready for the judging interviews. So last year, judging happened in smaller lecture halls where all the teams were separated based on essentially the track that they submitted for. However, this time they had all 600 or 700 attendees in one big room. So we all went in there and we were assigned a table based off of a number, which I think was assigned based off of the order of submission. And we ended up getting number 1. So we went and found our spot at the front of the room and set everything up that we needed for that. And in the end, we went through 3 rounds of judging, which all went relatively well. For the first and second judge, it seemed like they loved everything about our project.
Time! Sweet! Talk faster. Yeah. Talk faster. And let people know, hi, this is the thing we have done.
Yes.
This is who it's for. And then explain it.
Thank you very much.
All right, number 2.
Which allows us to have essentially it's a fully modular program that we can add anything to.
That is cool. I need to move on, but thank you very much.
No, I mean, I don't stay more, but I just spiked my interest. Can you describe what is the business case or what is the use of this?
Then came the third judge. Now, nothing against the guy himself, but by his own admission, he didn't understand anything we were saying to him.
Do you have any questions?
You guys kind of lost me when you brought in the Internet of Things and kind of like the development countries aspect. I was kind of
So the big
I think In total, we ended up explaining the project 2 or 3 times, and he still said that he just didn't get what we were saying. And we didn't do anything different between how we explained it to him then, how we explained it to the other 2 judges, and how I just explained it to you earlier in this video. Now, along with that, he also had the dev post submission, which included a video explanation and a full write-up on the inspiration, the how, the problems, and the full execution of the project, and he still just didn't understand what we made. But that's okay. That's fine. And after the 3rd judge left, the only thing that we could do was pack up our stuff and wait for the closing ceremony. The other judges loved our project, but since the 3rd one was just really confused on what we were saying, we were worried that he could dramatically impact our score. So how the scoring works is that there's 3 judges, and each of them gets a list of 5 criteria. Each of these 5 criteria are going to be scored on a scale of 0 to 5, with 5 being the best and 0 being the worst. Then after each of these judges scores a project, the scores are averaged between the 3 of them to get the overall score of the project. So although we were worried about our overall score because of the 3rd judge, the only thing we could do at that point was pack up and wait to be dismissed. After the judging finished, we had about 2 or 3 hours before we would actually be sitting down and hearing who the winners were. And it's at this point that we all started to worry. Last year we came in, we did really well, all 3 of the judges really liked our project, and we came away with the best overall. This time we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to get best in our category that we submitted for. And as the clock ticked down, our anxiety only grew more and more. Was our project good enough? Did we actually learn anything in the last year of making new projects, submitting things? Did that single mix-up from the last judge cost us the entire 24 hours of work that we put into this project, including the 2 to 3 hour commute down and back that we're gonna have to deal with? We had a lot on our minds after the interviews finished, but all we could do was wait. So we waited, and we waited, and we waited.
There's 12 fun activities and about 170 submissions. That is truly amazing, and we're so proud of all.
When the time came, the winners were announced one by one. And as they listed off each one of the tracks and each one of the winners, we became more and more anxious as there grew less and less opportunities for us to walk away with any kind of prize.
I'm waiting for the best overall prize goes to Miguel.
Unfortunately, we ended up with another loss on our record, and we came away empty-handed. Except not exactly. For a while now, my team and I have been looking for a project that we feel good enough about to actually develop. And when we came up with this idea, it was essentially unanimous. We thought this was that idea. Even though we lost, we still came together afterwards and discussed the possibility of moving forward with this project all the way through development and pushing it out eventually. And although it's going to very obviously be a long road of development and testing and working through everything, it's something that we are incredibly excited about. So if this type of tool is something that you think is interesting or something that you feel like you would really enjoy using, let us know down below so that we know how many people are interested in it. And adding a little bit more to that, maybe put down if you'd be interested in seeing how we develop this, me making maybe videos about us going through the development process and putting this out there and how that whole thing looks. And maybe if you want to go even the extra mile, let us know what your least favorite things about studying are, and we'll probably look into seeing if there's a solution that we can make to help make that not be a problem anymore. Anyways, that's it. See you next time.